Once you have lined your script, meaning you've numbered every scene, you've drawn your straight edges, you've measured the pages and written the page counts at the ends of the scene, the next step is to break out the production elements. So you'll need to print out some of these blank breakdown sheets, or if you like, you can input your breakdown elements directly into the computer. I tend to like to use these sheets. Okay, so scene number 1, it's up to you. You don't have to write this now, you can do it later, but set name would be Savannah Street. The description would be the action that happens, okay? Feather floats, Forrest meets nurse. Okay, the real world location, if you know where it is already, go ahead and write it. Okay, and if you may have already input it into the computer, you can also write the number. But this is enough to get started. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through this and break down all these elements that you see here. Cast, stunts, extras, vehicles, props, special effects, etc. So you have to go through very carefully, and you don't need to use a ruler, and just underline all those elements. So a feather, well, we need a feather. It's also floating through the air. That sounds to me like a special effect, and we know that it was computer generated in the film, but you're on a student budget, something like this. You might end up using fishing wire and a long stick or something like that. Anyway, it sounds like a special effect, so underline it. A city, Savannah, is revealed in the background. The feather floats down toward the city below. The feather drops down toward the street below as people walk up. People. We need extras. Walk past, and cars. I'd be tempted to underline this. We are gonna underline it because I want you to be thinking about these elements. But the fact is, we don't have a studio budget, so on a student budget, you're gonna be finding probably whatever cars are already there, so you don't need to break that element out. But let's do it anyway, so you can get used to thinking this way. And nearby lands on a man's shoulder. We can either highlight the man here, we can underline him here, or we can wait till he's named. Forrest Gump. We'll just do it there, okay? He walks across the street, causing the feather to be whisked back on its journey. Again, more special effects, but we've already underlined it once. Once is enough per scene. The feather floats above a stopped car. Now that sounds like something we have to provide for sure. The car drives off right as the feather floats down toward the street. The feather floats under a passing car, then is sent flying. Passing car, again, it might be something we have to time and provide. Then floats back up in the air. The man sits on a bus bench. The feather floats above the ground and finally lands on the man's mud-soaked shoe. It's a piece of wardrobe, very specific. The man sounds like it should be reaches down and picks up the feather. His name is Forrest Gump. He looks at the feather, oddly moves aside a box of chocolates from an old suitcase, then opens the case. Inside the old suitcase are an assortment of clothes, a ping pong paddle, toothpaste, and other personal items. Forrest pulls out a book titled Curious George. Look at all these props, and places the feather inside the book. He closes the suitcase. Something in his eyes reveals that he may not be all there. Forrest looks right as the sound of an arriving bus is heard. Okay, the bus pulls up. Okay, the arriving bus sound off camera is cheap. The bus pulling up is expensive. Can you see with each one of these elements? Can you just feel the budget ticking like a meter, ticking upward? Forrest remains on the bus bench as the bus continues on. A black woman is in a nurse's outfit. That's a very specific piece of wardrobe, so you must underline it. Steps up, sits down on the bus next to Forrest. The nurse begins to read a magazine as Forrest looks at her. There's dialogue. He opens the box of chocolates, holds it out for her. There's dialogue. The nurse shakes her head a bit apprehensively. By the way, you'll find you will not be underlining things in dialogue very often, but you have to read the dialogue anyway, because there might be something that's indicated by the dialogue that has accidentally been omitted in the description. You want to make sure you pick it up. But generally speaking, you will only be underlining things that are in the description. Okay. Whew, let's get through this scene. My mom always told me, he says his famous lines. Forrest eats a chocolate. He looks at the nurse's shoes. Okay, so we know she has to have nurse's shoes on. You know, we can't just let the actress have whatever she's wearing that day. Okay, there's more dialogue. You do have to read through it. The woman stares at Forrest, looks down at his own shoes. We've already underlined his shoes. I've worn lots of shoes. He closes his eyes, and we're out of the scene. Great. So now we have to take these elements, and we have to transfer them to the breakdown sheet. Okay, so let's go through from the beginning. We have we're going to call it a prop, even though it may be more like a special effect. Okay, but we'll also put it in the special effects, okay? Well, we know it's a prop, actually, because at some point he picks it up, and that's the very definition of a property, is something that the actor picks up and handles. We have people as extras. We'll call them pedestrians to make it clear. Remember, in the industry, the person that breaks down this script has to do it for somebody else to read, so you try to help them out as much as possible. Cars drive by. Okay, again, we're on a student budget, so I think we're not going to break out these particular cars. We're just going to go with what's there on the street. But we do have a stopped car. So that goes under vehicles, stopped car. We have a passing car. It may or may not be the same car. Don't assume anything. Actually, we know it's probably not, right? So it has to be broken out. Bus bench. That is technically not a prop, okay? It's a piece of set dressing. There is no category for that, so we'll put that under special equipment because we may find a location where that we love, but there's no bench there, and we may have to bring in a bench. Mud-soaked shoe, that's very specific wardrobe. Mud-soaked shoe. We have a box of chocolates as a prop. Now, keep in mind, if you're going to do multiple takes where he offers this chocolate with extras, that is to say extra chocolates, because if it needs to be a full box, a brand new box, at the beginning of every take, you're going to need some extras. Then he has a suitcase, okay, old suitcase. Try to use the adjectives that they use. Old suitcase with ping pong paddle, what else did it have? Toothpaste, personal items, so that's up to the discretion of the director and the property master. And clothes. Okay, great. Book, Curious George. Bus pulls up. We need a bus. Black woman, that's what they call her. It's up to you. I mean, this day and age, we might call her nurse. And we forgot to, star of the show, Forrest Gump is in the scene. Don't know how I skipped over that. And we have a nurse's outfit, very specific wardrobe. Again, you don't have to put like everything they're wearing, pants for Forrest, It's only when a specific thing like a uniform or mud-soaked shoes or the nurse's shoes, which we know are coming up, right? Yeah, it's part of her outfit, but let's make sure that they have those shoes. What if somebody thinks about an outfit and doesn't think about the shoes, okay? Then when it's very specifically called out, that's when you transfer it to wardrobe. Okay, magazine, that's another prop. How are we doing here? We get everything on this page? I think so. And there's really nothing new except the shoes, which we just put on that page. Okay, so, and then you think back to yourself, production notes, is there anything I need to make note of? Again, you might say, just to make sure people don't ignore this, we need a floating feather, special effect or something like that. Okay, so that's the process, and you're going to do this for absolutely every scene. You will notice that there are colors mentioned here: green, red, red again, orange, gray, etc. When one does this in the industry, every type of production element is underlined in that color, so you have all these different color markers. And the reason you do that is you can give a colored copy of this script to all of your people. And, you know, your property master, for instance, will then look through the script and say, okay, I know my color is yellow. So every time I see something that's underlined in yellow, right, yellow for props, I know that's me. And that's how it works. But you're not going to have a huge crew. It's going to be mainly you and maybe a friend or two to help you. So we're just going to underline it all with the same color. But use a color that stands out so that you don't miss these elements that you've highlighted, okay? So step 1, line the script. Step 2, break out the production elements.